edition of Sources Say, the NBA Gossip Podcast. I'm Juliet Litman.
I'm Chris Ryan.
We got a lot to go over. A lot of slights, a lot of stories, and a lot of drama.
Maggie Haberman of the NBA is here.
Just call me at Maggie the Ringer, at Maggie NYT, but at Maggie TR.
Okay.
Thanks. Should we begin with the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yeah, let's talk about Woj's very Politico-esque story.
Interesting that you painted that way.
Yeah, because I think that we were talking about this morning. So Woj has a huge story in ESPN today that's basically a TikTok of the 24 hours leading up to the massive overhaul of the Cleveland Cavaliers roster. And you were talking about the influence of like Lee Jenkins style, you're in the room pieces.
Yes.
But this actually to me feels a way more like a Politico or NYT inside the White House story, even down to Woj saying like this, ESPN spoke with X amount of people involved in this deal.
That is like a preamble that accompanies many of these stories. Like ESPN or Politico spoke with 20 people.
Yeah, 50 people who are currently working or have worked or are friends with people who work in the White House. And so the story is, I don't know if there's nothing too scandalous in it. There's a couple of interesting sliding doors moments in the story. But the thing that you and I were really reacting to is Kobe Altman should get a byline because a lot of this story could only come
from Kobe.
Yeah. Like, it's not like the guy from the Kings is calling up Woj and is like, and then I pulled this clown show move.
Can you believe I dropped Papianis into this trade deal?
And then there's also just like the intimacy with like what time this phone call was made or this text message was made and the specific reaction of somebody who was on a phone call and it was either Dennis Lindsay of the Jazz or Kobe Altman. And you can just read the story, and it just is very clear that Kobe is orchestrating this. And I have to say, if there was a winner of the trade deadline so far,
it's Kobe Altman.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
He's controlling his narrative. Another part about this is because it came from Kobe Altman. It is, in some way, we believe it did. It is in some ways generous to LeBron. Like it makes like LeBron.
A lot of checking with LeBron.
Yes.
A lot of I need to sit down with LeBron.
But not a lot of people could know and would be willing to say that LeBron and Dan Gilbert have only spoken like 2 or 3 times in the last year.
Yeah, there was this seems to push back slightly on the Athletic piece that was out about a week before the trade deadline that was essentially said there is a perception that Kobe Altman is in over his head a little bit here, and that one of the problems is that like there's just bad communication between Camp LeBron, Camp Gilbert, Camp Cavs front office, whatever.
This paints Kobe
Altman. And that Gilbert
Altman,
was essentially running the team still.
Right. Kobe Altman is painted as both like master deal maker. He's perfected the art of the deal, but also like the peace broker between LeBron and the Cavs.
Which, Kobe Altman might have learned really at the feet of David Griffin. That the best way to sort of paint yourself... Look, David Griffin did a really good job getting the Cavs to multiple NBA finals and like keeping a talented team around LeBron James and pulling off the Wiggins for Love trade and everything. But he was also on Scott Van Pelt and Ryan Russola's show like with some frequency. Like you can hear there's certain GMs that are really good at getting out there and like controlling how people think of them. And now you can't help but come out after 2 wins over the Celtics and the Thunder, even though it's really early. And I think it's easy to get kind of carried away. He's done a really good job at saying like there was a vision for this team. We put it together. And this is all an effort to keep LeBron. The big thing that I want to talk about is this revelation that they are very much aware that they could have just cleared the path for LeBron to join the Lakers.
Yes, that's like, I think we should like kind of go over like the 5 biggest revelations. That's probably number 1. Could that be revisionist history? Is it possible that that's being like slipped into the narrative now because they didn't? Because
that was literally what Windhorst tweeted the second the trade happened. Is that the Cavs just made it easier for the Lakers to get Paul George and LeBron James?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I don't know. Like if you're like, why would you talk about that while you're making the deal? I don't know. I have a hard time believing it was like at least discuss the way that it's written about in this article.
With free agency, it's kind of weird, right? Because I think there are a couple of teams that if you really just wanted to go there, like that team can make it happen.
Sure.
If LeBron wanted to go back to Miami, if LeBron wants to go to the Lakers, if LeBron wants to go to whoever, they're just going to be able to do it.
Sure. Yeah, I think that we learned that from Houston last year.
Yeah.
Like if
he wants to go to Houston, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, like the Rockets and Daryl Morey found a way to clear all the space for Chris Paul. Like they just and the other teams helped. Like there's just sort of when a player decides, it's up to him, and the teams make it happen. Basically, like no one no one was blocking the Chris Paul stuff. And
yeah,
are they going to block what LeBron James wants?
And one of the things that we were talking about today with this article is this idea that the only people who come off poorly in this piece are the Kings.
Sure.
And that I don't know whether or not that is a calculated risk by, say, Colby Altman, if he is in fact the person who is like, and then the Kings basically at the last second tried to insert Papagiannis into this deal so that they didn't have to have the embarrassment of buying him out. Basically, the Kings drafted Papagiannis in the first round a couple of years ago. He sucks. They want to get rid of him. They know he's going to be bought out, but they essentially wanted to trade him so that they didn't have to do the buying out. So it didn't look like they were giving up on him.
Right.
And there had been an initial deal agreement or some sort of agreement on a trade, the one that eventually wound up including Iman Shumpert and George Hill and all these people. And then at the last second, the Kings tried to insert Papagiannis and the Jazz almost walked away from the whole thing. And that was the Rodney Hood part of it. So the only people who look bad in this whole thing are the guys from the Kings.
Yes.
Especially Vlade, who apparently does not get on trade calls, even though he's the GM of the Kings.
And has veto power.
Yeah, but has veto power. So maybe you do this story and you're like, the chances are is that this will not be the front office of the Kings next summer. Or I'm never going to have to do a deal with them again.
Or all other 28 teams consider them to be such a clown show anyway that it doesn't matter.
Or Vlade Divac doesn't read the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like they're just like they're never going to find out. It definitely was weird. I also thought it kind of made Channing Frye and Shumpert look bad as well.
Why?
Because of the way that the Clippers like wouldn't take them on, and that's why they switched. Because like the first deal they were working on was for DeAndre Jordan and sending a bunch of players to the Clippers.
Yes.
But the Clippers were so resistant to Shumpert and Channing Frye that they wouldn't do it. I kind of think Shumpert's the biggest loser of the trade deadline in some ways. Like he was a key part. He was on the Knicks, like so he was famous. Then he was part of a championship team and like dating Tiana Taylor, and now he is like an asset they were desperately trying to move and no one wanted to take on, so they had to like do whatever they could. So,
and the other big thing that comes out of this, and it's come out of a few other pieces, but it's becoming more and more explicit as the days go on, and it shouldn't come as no surprise, but that beyond improving the team, the number one thing that Kobe Altman was trying to get accomplished over the trade deadline was getting rid of Isaiah Thomas.
Yes, get it. So they're just like, we got, no matter what. That was the most dramatic line in Woj's piece. Isaiah Thomas had to go.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting to me because we have also heard in bits and bobs that D-Wade was obviously friends with LeBron, but was not always like the best person to have in the locker room.
Yes.
But Dwayne Wade's move out of Cleveland has been pitched as this like everybody's happy.
Everybody wins.
Pat Riley wanted him back. Eric Spoelstra wanted him back. D-Wade and Gabby Union wanted to go back to Miami. LeBron gave it his blessing. They found the best place possible for Dwayne. And there's nothing about this, was Dwayne Wade good or bad for the locker room?
Absolutely, totally. Also, there's actually kind of like two slightly competing narratives. One that LeBron and Dwayne Wade were telling, where LeBron told the story of how Wade showed up at the practice facility, and he was like, "Did you hear what happened?" And it was like a surprise to them that Dwayne Wade got traded.
Yes.
But then Woj wrote like that the Cavs decided that Wade deserved to make a decision on his own. So that makes it seem like Wade asked to be traded back to Miami.
Right.
Or
they
leave.
Probably told him like,
You're
we're going to go with
minutes
Jetty
cut.
Osman, and we're also going to bring in a couple of other wings, and you're probably going to play. You're
Way
going to
less.
basically get Channing Frye minutes. If somebody's hurt, you'll play.
Right.
But for the most part, don't even bother taking off your like warm-ups.
Right. But it's been rumored that Wade was a real locker room problem for them.
Yeah, Bill talked about it. Other people have talked about it. It's not necessarily that he's like divisive. I think it's like wartime president, peacetime president.
Sure.
And I think when your team is doing well, Dwayne Wade's a great guy to have around. And if the team's doing badly, like the Bulls were, he can be a little bit
It's also just
divisive.
It's just harder for LeBron, the self-proclaimed camaraderie guy, to like foster that camaraderie when his best friend is around, because there's like an obvious like friend imbalance basically. Sure. So I'm sure for the Cavs that were there last season, it was just like a different vibe.
Yeah.
And then for the new player, they just had so many disgruntled new players anyway.
Yeah. So 2 games.
2 games in, they look spry.
There's a lot of
Jordan Clarkson. Just
a lot of Jordan Clarkson. What's this thing that he's doing? The thing with his arms?
I don't know, like his 3-point gun or whatever.
Yeah, but like LeBron's super into that already.
Sure.
They do have. Okay, do you think it's forced or not? The way that everybody is already on the same page in terms of like celebrating, being into each other. Everybody loves Jetty.
I think it's not forced, but I also don't think it will completely last.
Okay.
I think it's not forced because Clarkson and Nance have been on losing teams for a long time, and now they're for their whole careers. Now they're contending for the playoffs. George Hill was miserable in Sacramento. Now he's contending for the playoffs and like a meaningful player.
Rodney Hood has like no responsibilities whatsoever except to hit wide open
threes. Yeah, the expectations are super low.
Yeah.
LeBron has like a younger team around him, and they like there's reason for them all to be happy, but they also like have only been together for less than a week. So like get back. Like LeBron, check in with me about Jordan Clarkson in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and let's see how you're feeling.
I would say flat out, they are already faster than any Cavs team I've seen in like 2 years.
Oh yeah,
maybe the whole time. Like just running the break, the ball's zipping around. JR is obviously, he's just like can't believe his luck. He's still in Cleveland. He's so psyched.
He's back.
I don't know. I don't know. I think the NBA is pretty cool when LeBron is thriving like this. It's tough. It's just unbelievable how much of the last 4 years, really, he has the ups and downs of the Cavs have been the dominant NBA story.
Absolutely.
Even in the face of something like Golden State, where I guess it's just like excellence is sort of hard to write about on a daily basis, and the drama is better. But you almost wonder whether or not, like, does LeBron know that? You know, it's like, if LeBron just went out every night and did his thing and scored 25 and 7 and 7, and everybody was like, he's probably the second best player of all time, but would we get bored talking about it if there wasn't this extracurricular activity?
That's a good question. I think that the way that he talks to the media so much and is so vocal also really contributes to it, because there's always something to parse.
Yes.
Whereas like Steph and KD just give much more boring quotes. So there's just like not a lot to dig into.
Yeah, but LeBron also has learned, you can't tell me that LeBron doesn't know that there is an element of suspense to his entire career, where ever since 2011, he's able to keep people guessing about how he actually feels, where he's going to go, what does he think of the coach, what does he think of his teammates, and he's just. I don't think that that's an accident, that we're always on pins and needles waiting to hear what he's going to say or how he's going to react to something, because he's realized that that's the best way to keep himself in the public eye.
Totally, and also to control the league. Like no one can make moves until he makes his decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely,
and that's the other thing about this Cavs team. Like, do you believe in them? Ultimately, he still has to do all the work. Like their fortune still relies on like how engaged LeBron is.
And are incredibly reliant on his health.
Yeah,
which I am still sort of. He's tweaked his ankle. He's playing a ton of minutes. I don't know when his 2-week vacation is coming, if he's going to take one.
No vacation this year.
That's gonna be interesting to see him in the playoffs. Then.
I know. Like, how long can he last? Also, like Larry Nance is injury prone. Like, well, how long will he last?
Yeah,
or whatever. I don't know. It's definitely fun having them have a new look, though. Like we were like ready to ride out like another like 2 months of like the Cavs disaster with Isaiah Thomas. This is more fun.
Oh, for sure.
I'm excited about it. Speaking of other excellence, let's talk about the Warriors for a second.
Sure.
2 nights ago, Monday night.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr allowed his players to coach. And this is a Steve Kerr bit. It came out via Ramona on Twitter that a lot of coaches allow their players to like call plays or take over the huddle, but it's less obvious. Steve Kerr has really leaned into the bit this season, and to that extent, he very dramatically and obviously turned his clipboard over at various times to Draymond Green, David West, and Andre Iguodala, and then told reporters after the game that Omri Caspi and JaVale McGee were running shoot around.
JaVale McGee was on a computer running the film session.
Yes, right. And so he like allowed them to take over, and he said the team was sick of hearing his voice. And first reaction from you was,
this is bullshit.
And very rude to the Phoenix Suns, who they were playing.
Which apparently the Phoenix Suns didn't care. This is one of the fastest.
The Suns are so
This is one of the fastest inciting incident backlash to the backlash. I don't care. It had a 35-minute lifespan, where I was like, "This is ridiculous." Like I was just like, "I what do you guys want to do here? Like you can't. You're gonna beat the Suns anyway, so that it's sort of." Did I think it was rude? I guess. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess nobody gives a shit anymore about any of that stuff, which is so fine. Like, that's cool. But I don't really, the idea that Steve Kerr is like as soon as everybody got in with like self-help management techniques and stuff, I was like, I'm out on this story. I don't want to hear about like your pyramid of success or like
Tony
whatever.
Robbins.
Yeah, just like, I guess it worked. Let's see how they play again. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed about this Warriors team through all of their like, they just sort of like everyone like they look bored. They're not having fun. There's no real insight into like what's going on with them.
No, I think they're tired. I think I think they can beat any team on any night, and they know it. I think some of the guys are getting a little older. I think that there's a couple of guys on the team like JaVale and Nick who are not necessarily like, I don't, they're fine. They're great. The Warriors are great. I guess if I'm bored with them, I can understand why Steve Kerr would be bored with it and you want to set new challenges for everybody. Suppose it was a good idea. Yeah.
I just like when there was so much about like what was going on with the Heat when they lost in 14.
Yes.
And we're still talking about what was going on with the Bulls after 98, like all of this stuff. Like,
yeah.
And I just feel like there's none of that with the Warriors. I'm just like, where's the drama?
I think the drama will come if they don't win this finals. If for some reason they don't win the finals. Do I think they're going to win the finals? Yes. Quite easily.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Rockets.
Okay.
We've
already got a fathead bet on this.
Yeah, we do. Chris and I put fatheads up in our office. We've got Klay Thompson and Ben Simmons lording over us.
And what did I say I'd put up on my Kyrie Irving?
If the Warriors don't win, we'll be putting Kyrie Irving over your desk because you don't like him, and I do. So, whatever. Also noticed, we're also almost at the 1-year anniversary of Kyrie Irving proclaiming the world is flat on the Road Trippin' podcast.
Yeah.
I think it might be the 1-year anniversary tomorrow.
Really?
Yes. It came out during All-Star weekend. Kyrie's been notably silent. His Uncle Drew trailer came out today, and we've heard like nothing from him.
Yeah, he really didn't want anything to do with conversation about what was happening in Cleveland. He's like, I'm in Boston.
It's true. Okay, let's get to the hotter topics. I know that people care about the Cavs and the Warriors, but the second half of the show is really my time to shine. And also the time...
The second half? Is that a thing?
No, just with these topics.
Oh, these
I'm
topics.
excited.
Okay.
Number one, we got to make a pit stop in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where there still is discord in the Wizards locker room.
The funny thing about this Washington Wizards story this year is these guys can't even do chemistry problems, right? Like, they've screwed up chemistry problems. They
Seriously.
had team meetings.
Which Bradley Beal said was, I don't want to say it was pointless, but it was pointless.
Yes.
That's a paraphrase.
Then there was basically a period where they won a few games without John Wall. I think they went 5-0 without John Wall initially. And there was... I don't know whether the players were getting trolled into saying this kind of stuff by the media, but they were basically like, the ball's moving, it's a team win, everybody eats. That was their motto, everybody eats. And then Marcin Gortat had tweeted out something about like, great team win. And then John Wall LOL'd at him.
Yeah.
And has basically been like pretty public about saying like all of Marcin Gortat's buckets and is by proxy like the money he has made since he joined the Wizards are courtesy of him, like are because of John Wall. So for him to be talking about everybody eats and everybody gets to touch the ball is ridiculous. So they've had a back and forth. Gortat said he tried to, like, he wasn't really talking about John Wall. And then today it was reported that the Wizards that Gortat and Wall had met and that it was a quick meeting and there are still issues to work out. Stop having meetings, Wizards. It's not working out. You guys don't know how to do conflict resolution.
They really don't.
Really need a mediator.
They really do. Who should we bring in for them?
They got to get some HR.
I guess. Whose side are you on?
Here, let me make this explicitly clear.
Okay.
I'm on John fucking Wall's side. I don't give a shit about the Wizards. So if anything, I could care less if they win no games or all the games for the rest of the season. I like John Wall. I don't care about the Wizards. And this whole thing is so hilarious to me.
But like, let's take Gortat out of it. Like, if you're building your team, or do you want John Wall or Bradley Beal?
Yeah, I mean, I get. Why do you have to choose?
Because that's the obvious fight. It's very clear that the fight here is between John Wall and Bradley Beal. It's not actually about Gortat. Gortat is choosing a side, and it's not John Wall.
So you think that Brad and John are having a proxy war?
Yes, absolutely. Gortat is just like, he's Yemen in this whole situation.
Wow, political.
We started with Politico, you know.
Gosh, I'm Team John Wall. Team John Wall.
You're the original paid John Wall guy.
Yeah, I can't back off of that platform.
I mean,
I'm going down with the ship.
It's pretty unreal, though. I mean, this doesn't.
You know what I want to do is I want to start a GoFundMe to buy my own NBA team, and I'll take all your distressed ex-Kentucky assets. Let me get Boogie recovering from an Achilles.
Recovering. Did you see the picture of him stretching yesterday?
No, how's he going?
There's a picture. He's apparently rehabbing in LA, and he's filming the whole thing. Like, he was doing stretches with like a guy.
Boogie versus
sitting
time
on the ground, basically. Boogie versus time. But I'm really excited for that content. I'm curious where it's going to land and like how much.
Yeah, what platform do you think that'll wind up on?
Like probably Verizon's Go 90.
Funny or Die.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, so you're Team John Wall 100% of the way.
Yes.
The thing that I find funny about this is like there was never a question about like if the Wizards could win the East. Like obviously no.
Yeah.
So I'm just sort of like, yeah, this is a hilarious fight because this is a team that
building is so existential right now.
It'll just mire
it's so hard.
It really is.
Because everybody is like, oh, you need 2 or 3 superstars to win. Then all those guys need to get paid. Then the 4 and 5 players also eventually need to get played when they are good. This is going to happen to I was just listening, Rusilla was talking about this with the Thunder. This is going to happen the Thunder almost are going to be screwed if Paul George stays.
Right, because they have to pay him.
Because Melo will opt in, and then Steven Adams is up. And then they can keep putting Fergusons and Eustaces around them, but it's almost bad to have these like really superstar heavy teams.
Well, you kind of want the 2-year contracts, right? Like the way KD did.
Yeah,
basically.
but that's why I think that Toronto should probably be the model for Washington, but that would require them having a good general manager.
Shots. Does Masai have the most universal approval rating of any GM in the league?
Except for I think a couple of other GMs are like, that guy screwed me.
And I guess Bob Myers is the other one everyone loves.
Yeah, but I wonder if a bunch of people are kind of like, I could do what Bob Myers did if I had Steph and Kevin Durant. Or if I had Steph, Clay, and Draymond, I could have done that.
I'm glad you brought this up. This is something that we talk about internally that I think like with this whole handing the coaching over to the players, we need to discuss.
Okay.
Is coaching overrated? If Andre Iguodala...
Well, somebody had a stat on Reddit that the Warriors are 54-4 without Steve Kerr.
Yeah. So, like, cool guy, love his politics, good speaker, good podcast guest.
You know what?
But, do we overrate coaching?
I want to add a quick footnote to my Steve Kerr thing.
Okay.
I think what it is just that, like, we're a little easily impressed in the NBA. So, every night, every time Kerr and Pop say anything, we're just like, Dad... 2020 Pop Kerr, and they often say things that I completely agree with, but just as somebody who's in taking in NBA content on a nightly basis, every once in a while I'm just like, what's Joe Prunty got to say? You know what I mean? Like, what podcast is that guy listening to? And I think it's just like we're too focused on Pop and Kerr, and they're like, I'm going to tie one hand behind my back to make this job more interesting, so I'm going to sit half my team or let them coach or whatever. You know what
reminds me. Pop a couple of nights ago, maybe it was last week.
Oh yeah,
Patty Mills had 2 fouls, and it was the first half, and they didn't want him to get his third. So Pop was mic'd up. I guess it was a TNT game.
Sure.
And it was Pop and 3 assistant coaches and Patty Mills, and they were like in a huddle. And he was like, "Okay, we all have a vote. Do we trust Patty Mills to not get his third foul?" And like they were all voted yes, we trust him to not get his third foul. And it was like it was theater for the sake of theater.
It's why the NBA is actually awesome, is because we can have like an entire podcast about like not basketball.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
and so anyway, Patty Mills did get his third foul, and it was interesting because I was like, would Pop do this if he wasn't mic'd up?
Would Pop do it in the playoffs?
Would Pop do it in the playoffs? Would Pop do it like with LaMarcus Aldridge? Like, does he always be that sarcastic dude, or is it only with someone like Patty Mills who he knows can handle it?
Yeah.
But like that is the kind of thing where I'm like, how much does coaching matter? Like, is it about more of the managing of egos, or like actually about drawing up plays?
I was thinking about that with the Cavs too, because I think I thought that I wasn't sure that Ty Lue was going to make it. One of 2 people was going to go, Ty Lue or half the Cavs.
Yeah.
Right. And I wasn't sure if he was going to make it. And I was like kind of like thinking like if they bring in Fizdale, or if they bring in Mark Jackson, or if they bring like whoever they could bring in, would there be a dead cat bounce where there would be an inevitable, like the Cavs would do better with a new coach? And you do wonder, it's like Ty Lue's probably, like the guys who are in Cleveland right now probably don't know any plays.
No, they don't.
Like Crowder in Utah, they were saying like he's really intuitive, but like Utah notoriously has a pretty hefty playbook.
Yeah.
And they're like, Jay Crowder knows like 2 plays.
It's
but
true.
Utah has won 10 games in a row.
And he like looks better.
Yeah, and the same thing for Cleveland. Like if you pass the ball a lot and run hard, usually good things happen.
Right.
And that's essentially the formula for the Warriors, right? Like that, and have 3 of the best shooters of all time.
Yeah, when you're talking about team building, it's sort of like you need 2 stars, and then you need a lot of people who can score.
Yeah.
And then I think defense is the most teachable.
But this happens in almost every part, like job, and like in a lot of different offices, a lot of different like professional environments. There are people who are super detail oriented, and there are people who are probably a little bit more responsible for like overall culture.
Sure.
And I think Kerr and Pop, their X's and O's are probably out of this world 99th percentile, but the thing that makes them really special is the little things that they do to keep people engaged with playing the right way.
And that's what everyone says about someone like Coach K as well. That like and that's why he like got to run USA basketball, and now why Pop is.
And why they all love him.
Yeah, because it's about culture. Because like they've grown up playing basketball. I know what to do.
Yeah,
They're like all they. You have to have a high basketball IQ to be in the NBA. I don't want to talk about that though. I want to move on to another topic. Are you ready?
It's your podcast.
It's our podcast, Chris. Come on. TMZ has already posted 2 things about this story, which is an LA story with Michigan thrown in, and it is about Blake Griffin, who is being sued for palimony by his former girlfriend,
Bryn Cameron.
So there's two stories. There's 2 posts here that I want to talk about. The first one is, oh my God, they did 3 stories on this already. I can't believe it. So
she's filed a suit, and they're basically deriving
they're in real time. They are like going through the suit and doing stories about it.
Can I ask you a quick behind the scenes question?
Yeah, sure.
What's the deal with that? So LA courthouse gets a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Does someone in like the LA courthouse system alert TMZ that this has happened? Do they have like a database that they're just like looking at names of people who are filing lawsuits?
I believe so. Harvey Levin's a lawyer originally, so he's really good at like mining the legal system for their stories, and that's how they get a lot of exclusives. I believe that it goes both. They have sources, but they also like do their own research.
Okay.
So I believe.
Okay.
So she filed this lawsuit. The first like kind of big headline was that she claims that Blake Griffin abandoned the family for like the celebrity of dating Kendall Jenner. And then
does Kendall Jenner and Blake Griffin still date?
I believe so, yes. Even though he's now on the Detroit Pistons. And she said that it was cruelly embarrassing. Said they didn't have a place to live, and that she had to like rely on her brother for money, basically.
Matt Leinart.
Yeah. Or no, her brother.
Jordan Cameron.
That's
right.
Matt Leinart is the father of her first son. So that was the first story. Then the next one that came out is that they said the reason they broke up is because she wouldn't sign the prenup. And that was a week before their wedding. And then this is kind of the most interesting story for our purposes, which is that Blake was having such a hard time dealing with Chris Paul being the face and the voice of the Clippers when they were on the team together, that she had to like step in and coach him on like conflict resolution and like help him feel better about like not
Bryn
doing
Cameron,
this.
call the Wizards.
I mean, send her to Washington. Yeah. This is like pretty explosive. This is like a very damning lawsuit. I think in a lot of celebrity cases, when there's a high profile breakup like this, you get a pretty damning lawsuit. But this is definitely not the
It seems calibrated to make Blake look weak. Yeah.
Of course. And she hired like a famous divorce lawyer, as so often happens in LA with divorce stories. But this is pretty tough.
So Blake and Bryn, were they married, or this is for child support?
This is for child support because she claims that they are homeless and she doesn't have money to like deal with the kids. So this is pretty tough. And I actually had heard this before, that the reason they didn't end up getting married in July was over their prenup. And then that has now made it into the lawsuit. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but that's the version of events that she is telling. And yeah, it's pretty intense. It's sad.
The level of detail about Clippers' internal politics that's in this palimony suit makes it feel like it's calibrated to bring the most amount of embarrassment to Blake Griffin as possible. Absolutely.
It undermines him not only as like a father and a family man, but this is a quote from her lawsuit. She continued, Griffin struggled to be viewed as a leader for the Clippers, while Chris Paul was such a vocal presence in the locker room and the media, and this is when it gets really bad, and was better known for his drive to win and dedication to both team building and family values. That is like very, very damning of Blake Griffin and super undermining. Obviously, this is just her lawsuit that she's filed, so this is her version of events. But it's really like going for the jugular, basically.
Yeah,
and also kind of like playing into the perception of Chris Paul that already exists, whether that's true or not, who knows? But that's like what he's known for, right?
Yeah.
Like his drive to win and like his family.
Yeah.
So it's really playing upon a lot of. Both subverting.
Does it change the way you look at any people involved in this drama?
As you know, I've been so appalled by the Blake and Kendall relationship since it broke. So no.
Yes.
I just find the whole thing sad and like kind of shitty. And I mean, everyone who knows Blake like really likes him. So I don't necessarily think this is like the final word on Blake Griffin, but I find the Kendall Jenner relationship very tough to
Bad
digest.
beat all around.
Bad beat all around for everyone.
Yeah.
The other thought I had based on this is like, for a team that never made it to the conference finals and never really won anything, like we just can't stop talking about the Clippers. Like the old Clippers. They will like in some ways like define an era of basketball as much as the Warriors will.
You know, it was as an addendum to the Cavs stuff that we were talking about, one of the other things in that Woj piece is they basically have a deal set up for DeAndre, and Kobe Altman has to decide, if I make this deal, the only reason to do it is if we're going to re-sign DeAndre. And he's just like, and I decide, like, he's essentially like, and they didn't want to do that.
Right. Well,
so that's like, it's always fascinating to me to see the way player value fluctuates based on age, where you are in your contract, and how the league is changing in terms of like, do they value somebody like DeAndre?
Yeah.
And to watch DeAndre Jordan go from in November, everybody's like, DeAndre will probably get traded, and it's going to be the hottest topic of the trade deadline is where DeAndre goes. And it was going to be the Bucks, or it was going to be the Cavs, or whoever. Even Miami was in the mix for a minute. And now he is essentially the last guy standing on a Clippers team. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't re-sign him.
He's definitely not a Clipper next year. No way.
I just think that they are clearly going to revamp that team, and maxing out DeAndre Jordan at 30 years old doesn't seem like a Jerry West move to me, or a Michael Winger move.
No, definitely not. Particularly since he's most effective when he has like a great point guard around him.
Yeah.
And who knows who their next great point guard is.
Well,
if they don't have one. Milos and Austin. A couple final notes before we wrap this up. Lonzo Ball expecting a child with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Very undercovered to me. Like, we get a lot of Ball family drama. This is not really out there.
I have a question for you about Lonzo Ball, aside from his child.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's a Laker at the start of next season?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think it's in the mix that he's not.
Interesting.
I think that they like him, and I think he's good. But I do wonder how many more times... there's no point in begging LeVar not to talk. Like, even he disappears, his children are in Lithuania, and he still pipes up with... if the Lakers don't bring on all of my children, Lonzo will not re-sign with the Lakers.
Right.
That's not something you want to hear.
No. And I mean, that's true.
It's also like,
trade him while he still has value.
You're in a fantasy land. Like, that's not how like the NBA works. So it's like you're almost making these, it gets you publicity, but at the same time, if I'm Pelinka or Magic, even though I'm Rob Pelinka or Magic Johnson, so my life is pretty good, I'm still like, this is annoying.
Don't need this headache.
Yeah.
But also like Magic and Rob got to where they are because like they like to win,
But they also like to like work people and make deals
and be in control.
Yeah. And this is like this feels like something they can't control.
If I'm the NBA, I also like, if I'm the league, I hate LeVar Ball. I'm just like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
We don't want a Kris Jenner around here. Like, we just don't. It's like no like they don't also like for the same reason I'm sure the NBA is not happy with this Blake Griffin story generating 5 TMZ sports stories today. Like, it's just like not what you want.
Right before All-Star.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, let's focus on the good stuff. Let's focus on like Giannis, like his beautiful journey from Greek man who never had a smoothie to like future of the NBA.
Right.
And on a final note, let's just talk about a great dunk.
Shout out a great dunk.
Rudy Gobert dunked all over Enes Kanter on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah.
Loved it. There's a picture of Kanter surrounded by 5 Sixers trying to score, and he couldn't.
Yes.
And he like turned this picture into like a very self-aggrandizing, like, wow, look how hard I fight. And Gobert quote tweeted him and said, pass the ball.
So are those guys friends? Because I think we've gone through this with Kanter a couple of times where he gets roasted, but then it turns out people actually like him. Yeah. Like, KD doesn't like him.
No, KD does not.
Yeah, but he didn't he get a New York run, like a summer New York pickup run with and it was like Chris Paul.
He's part of the Brinkley crew. Chris Brinkley crew. So he was like in the Chris Paul, Russell Westbrook, LeBron James like pickup game.
And like Trevor Booker destroyed him on Twitter or after a game once where he was like he got his 15 and 10 and then took the L as usual or something.
Yeah, but
I couldn't tell if they all actually liked him.
I would guess. I don't know with him and Gobert, but I like that Gobert is kind of like, he's back. He's feisty.
Yeah.
You like it. That's what I'm looking for.
Another like, we're being very like avant-garde with our decisions was Quinn Snyder asking Gobert if it was basically okay to leave Derek Favors in the game to win that tight one late of the night. Where he was like, do you want to go back in? And Gobert was like, no, Derek Favors is doing a great job. Leave him in.
There's a Quinn Snyder moment coming. First of all, having seen him in person, he seems like an extremely confident, happy man. And I just feel like for all of the like stories in his past about, when he was in Missouri, I just feel like there's a real Quinn Snyder hive.
Quinn Snyder is the LA Lakers prince who was promised.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you that.
Quinn Snyder,
there's no information, but like when they're like, okay, now we need a real coach.
Hair, yeah. Quinn Snyder's on deck. There's a Quinn Snyder moment. It's going to come, and I look forward to it.
Okay.
I look forward to All-Star Weekend.
I look forward to it as well.
Plenty of drama.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Let me get one prediction from you.
Okay.
Monday morning, I come in. I'm like, "What's up, Juliet?
Mm-hmm.
Who won All-Star Weekend?"
Great question.
As a personality.
Yeah, sure.
As a person who just like made it all happen. In the past, when the All-Star game is in places like Toronto or New Orleans, like we've joked before about there's like a mayor.
Yeah.
So Drake was the mayor of Toronto All-Star, but DeMar and Kyle did a good job too. AD was the mayor of New Orleans All-Star. Who is going to be the mayor? Because
we don't have
we
like
have
an
LA
guy.
talent deficit.
Yeah.
I think that whose All-Star Weekend is it going to? Who's it going to belong to?
Joel Embiid.
I'm worried that I think he is on the verge of being too banged up to play.
Overexposed?
No, because he's got an ankle.
Well, as you know,
and a back.
I've been worried about this all season.
Well, I think that if he tweaks anything in the next, well, I guess it will only be the next 2 days. He's scheduled to do a lot of stuff.
He is. That's why I think he has a chance to win. Big personality and involved in a lot of events.
Okay.
I also think we'll be getting a lot of DeMar DeRozan, hometown kid.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like the LA proxy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we'll also be getting a lot of Anthony Davis.
Oh, okay.
I'm concerned about Paul George. I just want to end with one piece of advice. Paul George, stop talking to the media. Hard stop. You're going to get in trouble this weekend when you're back in LA. I know it's going to happen.
But he's just like listing all the teams that he also likes.
He's like the number one. He is like, I just am concerned for his future. I want him to stop talking to the media. He gives the worst quotes. Doesn't do himself any favors, and it's not helping his leverage. So my wish for All-Star Weekend is for Joel Embiid to stay healthy and for Paul George to stay silent.
This has been Sources Say.
Thanks for listening.